Hi, this is Mike from BandLab, and in this video, we're going to look at how to make pitched trap hats in BandLab. You can open this project yourself with the link in the video description, and if you find this guide useful, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be the first to know when new videos drop. Making pitched hi-hats for trap is easy in BandLab thanks to its sampler instrument. I'm going to start by setting the project tempo to 140 beats per minute, though I'm going to leave the project key unassigned for those that want to fork the project and add their own music. The first element I'm going to add is an 808 drum kit, and I do this by clicking Add Track, selecting Virtual Instrument, then setting the instrument to drum pads, Ultra Fat 808. I'm going to make a straightforward trap beat with this kit, including a placeholder hi-hat part. I add closed hats on eighth notes for 2 bars. I then add snares on the third beat of both bars, with an extra snare on the fourth beat of the second bar. I also add kicks on the first beat of the bar and the second beat of the second bar. I duplicate out these 2 bars for the rest of the 4-bar clip. To duplicate notes or clips in BandLab, select them, then hold Option on Mac or Alt on Windows and drag them over. I set this track to -6 dB to give me more headroom to add other elements to the mix. This trap beat is fine, but the hats aren't too inspired, so let's funk them up a bit. I select all the closed hats and delete them. I add another track, this time selecting Sampler. Sampler is ideal for playing back one-shot samples, and we can find plenty of these in BandLab Sounds. I open up BandLab Sounds, click the One Shots tab, and enter 808 hat into the text search field. This gives me a wide choice of samples to pick from. An 808 hat one-shot WC hip-hop is perfect. I drag this onto the first sample pad in Sampler. As before, I add hats on eighth notes. However, this time I'm going to add some hat rolls. I delete the hats on the last beat of the first bar, and on the last eighth note of the second bar. I want these rolls to play on 32nd notes, so I change the view grid size to 132. I then replace the deleted hats with 3-note rolls, like so. This sounds cool, and we can make it more interesting by making these rolls pitched. In Sampler, I duplicate the hat sample onto the second and third sample pads. This works just like duplicating a note or clip. I hold Option on Mac or Alt on Windows and drag it over. To get the pitched hat effect, we adjust the pitch parameter of the samples. I set the second pad's pitch to 3st, which pitches the pad up 3 semitones. I set the third pad's pitch to 1st, which pitches it up 1 semitone. We can hear how these different pitches sound by clicking the pads. So we can play our hat sample at 3 different pitches now. For the most part, I'm going to leave the hat playing the original pitch by keeping it playing pad 1. However, I'm going to change the pads that are played on the rolls. In the MIDI editor, I drag up the second and third notes of the first 2 rolls so that they play the second pad. Let's hear how that sounds. Now I drag up the whole of the final roll so that it plays the third pad. That's just the effect I'm looking for. I change the view grid size back to Smart and duplicate out the hat part so that it plays the whole of the 4-bar clip. Naturally, you can use this technique on other sounds. Let's quickly look at how we can make a pitched 808 bass line. I make a new sampler track and set it to -3 dB. In BandLab's Sounds, I enter 808 into the text search field. and drag 808 Tacoma into the first sample pad. I duplicate a copy of this onto the second sample pad, and set the version on the second pad's pitch to 7st. I then sequence the first pad to play on the first and fourth beats of the first bar, and the second pad to play on the fourth beat of the second bar. I duplicate this out. However, there's an issue. Listen to what happens on the bass on the third bar. At the start of the third bar, these two kicks are playing at the same time, and it's creating an effect I consider to be undesirable. I can avoid this by setting both pads to gate mode, which means that they both stop playing when their MIDI notes end. Another way to achieve this effect is to put both samples into the same group. Only one sound from a group can play at once, which is useful when you're working with open and closed hat samples. You can fork this project and make your own version of it using the link in the video description. Have fun!